Okay, testing 1 2 1 2, testing 1 2. Can you hear the mic? Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Pro Trade Room Plus and U.S. retail sales. My name is Lee Goldstein, Trading Director at 10-Minute Trades. Please remember, I'm not a financial advisor. All the trades we discuss are for educational purposes. It is possible to lose money trading futures, so trade carefully, please. I do want to say hello to everybody watching us on YouTube. It's our free stream of the week. So today we've got retail sales. So is there an MGC setup? So the real truth is we just don't have enough time to test all the micros. With all the trades that we have to test, it's just not possible for us to test all the micros. I generally would use a bigger stop if I'm going to trade micros, but if I really wanted to reduce risk, I might trade the outer tier on regular size gold, or just bite the bullet, trade micros with a similar setup. I would use a little bit bigger stop on micros, but these brackets are pretty big on gold. It's not trading with PPI today, which it often does. And let me show everybody the spike sheet. So when we have a trap trade, which we do have today, retail sales is a trap trade. The tiers are pretty darn big, 55 and 70. The stop is 20 to 25. I mean, more often than not, I've been using 20 on this, which means a 90 tick. It's 90 ticks of safety. That means if you get less than a 90 tick spike on the news, you'll survive the release of the news as a trap trade. And then, of course, if it reverses, you'll get your reversal. Now, the trap trade on this report works very well, with or without PPI. So I would tend to using the same setup. I don't know, Chantal, if you have anything to say about micro gold on the brackets, the tiers, if you would increase the tiers or not. If you feel like weighing in, feel free. If you're here, let me show you the spike sheet that we use. So our setup is safe virtually, even when PPI traded. Our setup should survive the spike of the news because you have a tier of 70 and a stop of 20. That's 90 ticks. 90 ticks. We're probably not going to get a 90 tick spike today. I just don't think we're going to get a 90 tick spike. If we do, if we get a 95 tick spike, we're going to get stopped out. That will ruin the trap trade. But you could see most of the times when it trades without PPI or with PPI, we still have a setup that should not burst beyond our stop. So Roz, what Chantal's saying, you could use 60 and 75. And understand that Chantal's firm belief with a trap trade is she would rather not get filled than get stopped. And definitely trades it, I'd say, a little bit more conservative than I do, but these days I've been pretty conservative on trap trades. But I think retail has large tiers to begin with. Yeah, I think a 35 stop is reasonable with micros. So the way that I'm going to set up my trade, and I did want to say hello to folks that are watching on YouTube. We know you're out there. We do know you're out there. So I'm going to set up a trap trade. Position 1 is a 1, position size 2 is a 1, and the stop is 20. Tier 1 is 55. Tier 2 is 70. And the time of the event for everybody out there that's using the trap trade is 8:30. Time of the event is 8:30. Remember, I'm using a different version of the software, so don't do the time the way I do it. And the prep is 5 seconds. Prep is 5 seconds, okay? That's the breakout. Sorry, that's the trap. That's the trap, and I'm trading that on my regular cash account. Retail, you know, we have been testing also, believe it or not, an ES trap trade. But right now there's only one official setup, and it is the trap trade on this report. So one more time, let me go over the setup. Tiers of 55 and 70. The time of the event is 8:30 with a prep of 5 seconds, and we have a stop of 20. And then when you enable a trap trade, you want to make sure your chart is wide enough so that you can see the combine button, just in case you decide you want to use it. The combine button is up top on the taskbar of the trading chart. Okay, I call that the taskbar of the chart. You have a break even button, close the trade button. We don't adjust. Cancel the outer tier if only one order gets filled, and combine your orders, which sometimes we do on a trade. Now, I don't really have a second setup on retail. I just don't today. I'm going to watch the ES on my Top Step account, and I think what I'll do is watch it as MES for a change in direction or a continuation trade. But I'm really not planning anything because I think we're going to have to manage the trap trade. But I like to have a second trade set up on these big, some of these big reports, So I'll set it up as our reversal setup. And that means if I use micros, I'll use multiple contracts. So I'll look for 10 ticks and 22 ticks of profit with a 20 tick stop. And that's just if there's a possibility for change in direction. You could look at ZN also for a secondary trade. I mean, this can be the kind of report that moves enough that a breakout could work and a trap trade could work. Because we've looked at gold breakouts on retail. And let me just give you an idea. I've got to level with it. The real truth is we've been on a trap trade for a long time on this report. Yes, sometimes you can get a gold breakout that's going to work, but you can get liquidity issues. If I were going to trade a breakout, I would probably lean more towards bonds because they have more liquidity, but this has not been an incredible breakout trade. And that's why we have it as a trap. $10 and 22 on my MES with a stop of 20. So I'm just setting up a simple reversal. And I want to explain a couple of things about what you can do if you want to reduce your risk. For instance, on the trap trade, one thing you can do bear with me 1 second. I want to just save something here. Okay, one thing you can do to reduce risk on a trap trade is if you just trade the outer tier. So that would mean you just position size 2 would be a 0. Your stop would still be the same, and tier 1 would be 70 instead of 55. Everything else would be the same. And that would just be 1 order instead of 2. So that would cut your risk in half. Okay. So that's not unreasonable. Let's take a look at a couple of videos. If I were going to trade a bond breakout, I would use a setup similar to, ISM or jobs. Retail can be a good mover, so I'd use a bracket of 6. I'd use targets of 6 and 15 with a stop of 12 on bonds, and I would enter at 829.58. That's how I would consider setting up a bond breakout if I were interested. Looking at last month, retail traded with PPI. So that doesn't really help us today with testing. We look at it. We certainly look at it. And we traded it as a breakout, gold and PPI, and it did a complete total reversal also. And the breakout worked. Okay, and the breakout worked. Now, let me take it back a step. Yep. That worked. That was March. Okay. If I were going to trade a gold breakout on this report, I would use a bracket of 10 to 12. 10 to 12 with a stop of 15. 10 to 12 with a stop of 15. But you saw, even though the breakout worked, it does reverse very quickly. This report can reverse very quickly these days. These days, as Jackson Brown would say. I've been out walking these days. I don't do that much talking these days. I think he wrote that song when he was 17 years old. It is beyond belief, the songs that he wrote when he was under 18. Incredible. One of the greatest American songwriters who ever lived, Jackson Brown. Here we go. 8:29 in February. 8:30 is the report. Trading the trap. No PPI. You can see it took its time to fill. Now, there was an opportunity, I think, to reverse the MES at the high of the day. There's always risk, but we did get a reversal in gold. So you cancel the outer tier. It only filled one tier. Try to keep your stop away from the price so you could trail into some profit. And it was pretty good in February. It had a nice reversal. But if you were trading only the outer tier in February, you would not have gotten filled. But if you trade just the inner tier, then you have too much risk because you're way on the short side of the stop. And you don't want to use a 50 tick stop and an early entry. It just throws everything out of whack. Doesn't make sense. This is January. Has anyone heard of Jackson Brown out there? You gotta have, right? It's not just me. I'm not the only person that is into music. You all have heard of Jackson Brown, right? Everybody's heard of Jackson Brown. Doctor My Eyes, Papa. That's probably his most famous song. The greatest song he ever wrote, The Pretender. Absolutely, it's amazing, absolutely amazing piece of music. It's not music, it's art. It is truly a piece of art. January retail hits both tiers. I don't remember if we got stopped out in January. You know, after it hits both tiers, you're looking for that reversal. I've been out walking these days. I don't do that much talking these days. I think that there's a crazy version of These Days on Instagram by Billy Idol. I'm positive. And it's really interesting. I really like it. It's weird. Billy Idol. Guy still looks good. So it did reverse, not giant reversal initially in January, but if you were patient, it did go up more, okay? It did go up more. Definitely, he wrote the Eagles, one of their first hits, Todd. Take It Easy. Yeah. Did he write Stay? I don't know that he wrote Stay, Chantal. I'm not sure that he wrote Stay. Let's see. Not my favorite Jackson song, but a decent song. I mean, I'm not going to say that Your Taste is not good. Yeah, no, Bieber, Leroy and Bieber wrote Stay. Now, wait, there's more than one Stay. There's more than one Stay. You know, you can have a title. You can't copyright a song title, but you can copyright song lyrics. So there could be 10 titles with the words that are called Stay. Maurice Williams wrote Stay in 1960. I knew that he didn't write that. Running on Empty was great. Great. What else was on that record? That was an amazing record. I actually liked My Cleveland Heart, which was recent. Jackson Browne is like 74, maybe. Looks great, still tours, still sounds fantastic. Let's look at November retail. What we're seeing is month after month reversals, okay? Month after month reversals. But I always loved Pretender. It's like an 8-minute song. And it's amazing. Amazing song. It's really a piano song too. Maybe that's one of the reasons I like it more than some of his other stuff. But the Pretender album, that was the title of the album also, has some of his most beautiful work. Did we have no fill? We were trading micros in August. Did not have a fill in August. And August was PPI also. We did have August PPI. And we used one tier of 75 ticks in August. One tier, 75 ticks. I'm sure we were feeling a lot of risk in August, and that's why we did it that way. The MES is making a new high right now. That's going to ruin that test the high trade and reverse at the high. Not going to be able to do that. It doesn't look like. If you have a favorite Jackson Browne song, type it in. Type in your favorite Jackson Browne song. Now I forget. I'm losing my mind. Take It Easy was what he wrote for the Eagles. That was the first big song that the Eagles did. That was written by him. That's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing. I've been watching a whole bunch of stuff about the Eagles lately. They made a TV show in about 10 years ago, The History of the Eagles. It's pretty good. It's fun to watch. Brown Eyed Girl, that's really getting back there. That's getting back there. Now, did he write that? I don't think. Why do I not thinking he wrote that? Van Morrison wrote Brown Eyed Girl, and Van Morrison sang Brown Eyed Girl. I don't recall Jackson Browne doing Brown Eyed Girl. That's Van. That's Van. Van the man. Now, did Jackson do that? He might, but a lot of these songs get covered. Good songs always get covered. Let's look at one more retail. Let's go back to August just to see what it was doing in August. There was quite a bit of price volatility that morning. You could see there was Canada CPI news as well. And retail was trading with New York Empire State. Not a large contamination there. Still doing the trap. Smaller tiers back then, 35 and 45 in August. It's a big difference. We did get a fill, and we did get an initial opportunity for a change in direction. Then it went up, and then it did pull back. It did pull back, and it did give us an opportunity to get the reversal. So there was a reversal in August. Excuse me. So the gold trap, one more time. Position size 1 is a 1, position size 2 is a 1. 20-second stop, 20-point stop, 20 ticks. 55 and 70 on the tiers. 8:30 is the time of the event. Prep 5 seconds. That's our setup. Let's check our time sync by going to the website. Time is. Okay. They're expecting 0.5 on core. Now, I think there's a difference in the calendars. You got Empire State again. Usually that comes in pretty negative. I expect that to be more negative than expected, Empire State, but it shouldn't contaminate the trade too much. It shouldn't contaminate the trade too much. This was January. January was a trap. Filled pretty quick. Filled the second tier. And it was a slower, a tough reversal. And then it did reverse more. Okay. Now, remember, if you can't see your orders, it's because your chart may be too spread. So shrink it if you can't see your orders when the trap puts the orders on the chart. Usually, more often than not, the chart's too big. It's too big if you can't see your orders. If they're too scrunched, then you make it wider. All right, so we've got a couple of minutes. We have 2.5 minutes. I want to thank everybody watching on YouTube. It's our stream of the week, our free YouTube stream of the week. Today is tax day in the US. I always do my taxes like the day before taxes are due. And e-file, I never can get e-file to work. Never can get it to work. Now, we do have a trade room at 9:30 for building business inventories and retail inventories. And it's really just a watch. It's a fairly new report. It's not a new report. It's a report we haven't been looking at. And I thought it was moving more than it actually is. Because when we did our testing, it wasn't that great a mover. But there's like 3 different versions of the report. So I'm not really anticipating a huge trade from it. But I want to watch it because there's a few times I've seen that it moved. So our orders are going to show up 5 seconds before the news, and I'll probably have to shrink my charts. That's my guess. I usually have my charts spread too wide. So the orders are going to show up now for the trap. Shrink them down a bit. Pulling one target up. The news is pretty good. Pretty good news. I'd like to get a reversal. I really would. If it does a reversal, I'll cancel the outer tier. I'll cancel the outer tier if I get a reversal. I'm canceling the outer tier, moving my stop to safety. Just by a couple of ticks. I probably did it too soon. It's not reversing enough. It's not reversing enough. It's going to stop me out. I'm too soon. Too soon. But it won't be a loser, so live and learn. Now, if it does reverse here, I'll probably take some profit. Because as it is, I'm only a couple of ticks positive. I'm only a couple of ticks positive. The news is positive by a lot, and that's creating pressure. That's definitely creating pressure to the downside. I'm trailing my stop. If it stops me out, I think it's going to wind up pushing back down. Why do I think that? So look, we took $150. The news is very positive, way better than expected. Now, it may not push down, and it may be a great reversal. But I'm thinking because of the news, and look, too tight on the darn, too tight. This is very choppy, difficult, okay? Difficult. See what I meant? That was my worry. That was my concern. When you look at the news, it's all brutally positive. Retail sales were fantastic. I could not pay attention. Couldn't pay attention to the ES. That trade when it hit the PP was the reversal. And honestly, folks, I could have spent a little more attention on that reversal. Now you're getting a darn good reversal on retail. Trailed too tight. Impatience is a curse. Impatience is a curse. I say it over and over, and it's my worst trait. Impatience. If you stayed in, if you could have stayed in, oh my goodness, now I want to shoot myself. All right. That would have been phenomenal if you stayed in. It would have been phenomenal. Trailed it too tight. You know, look, I'm not going to cry in a corner to make $150, but I'd much rather make 1,000. That was a big, big move. 69, 369. It's 40, at least 40 ticks, maybe more. My concern was the positive news. I'm really surprised about that change in direction. I am. Now, is it because of retail news? The ES did the same reversal, The markets like the news, it looks like. Looks like the markets like the news. I do want to thank everybody for watching us on YouTube. If you'd be kind enough to hit the like button and hit the notification bell so you know the next time we're streaming. We're going to close our stream on YouTube. Thank you very much for watching us here. And we'll see you next week. We have a free stream every week. So thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you next week.